Hello and welcome to this podcast. It was put together by me, Wilfred Wright, from an article written by Iyamide Thomas and Nigel Davies. This article you will find on our website, www.thekrios.com. I hope you enjoy listening to it, and you can give us feedback on our Facebook group, which you can find by going onto Facebook and searching for thekrios.com. Thank you.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the history of the Krios people of Sierra Leone.
A fascinating story.
It really is, and a huge thank you to Wilfred Wright for the suggestion.
Great pick, Wilfred.
We're going to be journeying through time, tracing the roots of this really unique culture that blends African, Caribbean, and British influences.
Right, and something that's really interesting about this deep dive in particular.
And just a heads up, this deep dive is a little different.
Okay.
We're experimenting with some AI magic behind the scenes, so let's see where it takes us. Are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What I think is so fascinating about the Krios is how their story really unfolds almost like a novel.
Okay.
Highlighting these complexities of history and the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And Iyamide Thomas and Nigel Davies, the authors of the material we're looking at today,
Right.
do a really good job of setting the stage here.
Okay, so let's set the stage then.
Okay.
We're talking late 1700s, early 1800s, a time of really huge shifts happening around the world. And right in the thick of it, you have Sierra Leone becoming this unexpected kind of melting pot of cultures.
Right, and the Creole people, as we know them today, they really emerged from this unique blend of four distinct waves of settlement.
Right.
Each group bringing their own stories, their own cultures, their own experiences, and really adding these layers to this already rich tapestry.
So who are the first people to arrive on the scene?
That would be the Black Poor, a group of formerly enslaved Africans living in London in 1787.
London.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have pictured that as a starting point.
It's a fascinating little twist, right? These individuals, they had been granted freedom, but they faced immense hardship in England.
Oh, I bet.
Remember, this was still a time when the abolitionist movement was gaining traction.
Right.
But societal structures were very slow to change.
Of course.
These newly freed people encountered prejudice, limited opportunity.
Yeah.
A really tough reality.
So the province of freedom, as Sierra Leone was envisioned, seemed like a beacon of hope to these people.
Exactly. Figures like Granville Sharp, a prominent abolitionist, saw it as a place where these individuals could start anew, build a life free from the shackles of their past.
Makes sense, but I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing from there.
Sadly, no.
Yeah.
Their settlement, Granville Town, faced tremendous challenges. Disease conflict with the indigenous Temne people.
Wow.
It was a harsh reality check for these early settlers.
And a stark reminder of how complex history can be.
Yeah.
So this first attempt at a province of freedom, it didn't quite go as planned.
Not exactly. Granville Town only lasted a couple of years, but their arrival really marked a turning point.
Okay.
Think of it like laying the first, albeit shaky, stone in the foundation of something new.
Okay, so foundation laid, who comes next to build on it?
Enter the Nova Scotians in 1792, another group of formerly enslaved people.
Okay.
But their journey took them on a much different route.
Fill me in.
These were men and women who'd fought for the British in the American Revolutionary War in exchange for their freedom. They ended up in Nova Scotia, Canada, but faced discrimination and a very harsh climate there.
Right.
They were promised land and a better life, but they were met with broken promises.
So they were ready for a change of scenery.
Absolutely. And this is where a true leader emerges. Thomas Peters.
Okay.
He traveled all the way back to England to plead their case for relocation for a chance at a real fresh start.
Talk about determination.
Right, and it worked. Peters successfully negotiated the resettlement of over 1,000 Nova Scotians to Sierra Leone.
Now that's leadership.
It is.
They sound like a resilient bunch.
They absolutely were. Upon arriving in Sierra Leone, they established Freetown, which would eventually become the capital city.
Right.
And this wasn't a group content with simply surviving. They wanted to thrive.
What was their experience in Freetown like compared to that of the Black Poor in Granville Town?
So the Nova Scotians were fortunate to have more support from the British government
Okay.
and had acquired valuable skills as soldiers, artisans, and tradespeople during their time in Nova Scotia.
Right.
This gave them an advantage in establishing a more stable and prosperous community.
Yeah.
By the 1820s, they'd become a prominent force in Freetown, a testament to their resilience and determination.
It's remarkable how those early settlers, despite facing such hardships, they laid the groundwork for this new society.
It is.
But they were far from the only ones who would contribute to the Krios story, right?
Right. And this is where it gets really interesting because next up we have the arrival of the Maroons, and they bring a whole new dimension to this cultural fusion.
The Maroons. I don't think I'm familiar with that part of history. Who were they?
Imagine this. Skilled warriors, descendants of escaped slaves in Jamaica who had been resisting British rule for generations.
Wow.
They had a reputation for being fierce and uncompromising.
They sound almost mythical. How did they end up in Sierra Leone?
Well, after years of conflict, the Maroons faced defeat in the Second Maroon War. Many were deported to Nova Scotia. Remember that harsh climate we talked about?
Oh, right, those poor Nova Scotians.
But here's the thing. By 1800, around 600 of these Maroons found themselves on the shores of Sierra Leone.
So they joined this already diverse community, bringing their own unique culture and experiences to the mix.
Exactly. And it's crucial to understand the impact of their warrior background.
Right.
These are individuals deeply connected to their African roots with a strong generations-old tradition of resistance.
Right.
They weren't about to be pushed around.
Wow, I can only imagine the dynamics that must have created in Sierra Leone. So we have the Black Poor seeking a fresh start, the resilient Nova Scotians building a new life, and now the Maroons adding their strength and their fighting spirit to the mix.
Yeah.
It's like all these different threads are starting to weave together.
And this next chapter is a pivotal one, not just for Sierra Leone, but for the entire world. Because as the Maroons were settling into this evolving community, a monumental shift was happening. The abolition of the slave trade within the British Empire in 1807.
Wow, 1807, that's a landmark year.
It is.
No more ships arriving on those shores, filled with people stolen from their homes, their families. You'd think that would be the end of the story, right?
You'd think so, but it's actually a beginning in many ways, because even though the transatlantic slave trade was abolished, the fight was far from over. This is where our fourth group enters the picture, the liberated Africans.
Liberated Africans. Tell me more about them.
These were individuals rescued from illegal slave ships by the British Navy.
Okay.
See, even after 1807, some still tried to profit from this inhumane trade, but the Royal Navy was patrolling the waters, intercepting those ships, and bringing the people they found to Freetown.
So instead of being taken across the Atlantic, they were given a chance at freedom in Sierra Leone. I could only imagine the mix of emotions, relief surely, but also fear of the unknown, maybe even anger at what they'd been through.
Absolutely, and it's crucial to remember the sheer diversity within this group. We're talking about people from all along the western coast of Africa, Yoruba, Igbo, Bakongo, and many more, each with their own languages, customs, traditions. Imagine the cultural kaleidoscope this brought to Sierra Leone.
It's mind-boggling, really. So we have these four groups, each with their own unique story. The Black Poor, the Nova Scotians, the Maroons, and the liberated Africans all converging on this one place. How did they go from being distinct groups to forming a single, unified identity, the Krios?
That's the real heart of this story, isn't it? And it's a testament to the extraordinary power of shared experience. These four groups, coming from such diverse backgrounds, they found common ground in their displacement, in their yearning for a better future. This shared struggle, this collective desire to create something new, that's what bound them together.
It makes you think about how our identities are shaped not just by where we come from, but by the experiences we share, the challenges we overcome together.
Precisely. And language played a huge role in this fusion, wouldn't you say? Think about it. How do you bridge cultural divides, build a sense of unity? You need a common language. And that's how Krios, the language we know today, was born.
It's fascinating how languages evolve, reflecting the history of the people who speak them. So tell me more about Krios. What makes it unique?
Well, it's English-based, which reflects the influence of the British. But here's where it gets interesting. It's also infused with words and phrases from Yoruba, Igbo Portuguese, and various other African languages. It's like this incredible linguistic tapestry woven together from all these different threads.
It's like a living, breathing testament to their history, a testament to that fusion of cultures.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about words, it was about creating a means of communication, a way to bridge those divides and build a sense of belonging in this new society that we're forging together.
It's incredible to think about how those cultural influences went beyond just language.
Yeah.
Their architecture, dress, food, music, even how they celebrated holidays. Everything must have been impacted by this unique blend.
You're spot on. The Krios developed their own distinct architectural style, blending European and African elements. You see it in the design of their homes, their churches, this beautiful fusion of aesthetics. Their cuisine is another great example. It's a delicious mix of flavors reflecting their diverse heritage. West African ingredients blended with Caribbean spices, European cooking techniques. It's a culinary adventure.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. And their music too, right? That must be something special.
Oh, absolutely. Creole music is incredibly vibrant. It blends traditional African rhythms with European melodies, often incorporating elements of storytelling and dance. It's truly a reflection of their multifaceted heritage.
So it's like this remarkable cultural tapestry was being woven thread by thread, generation after generation. This wasn't just happening in isolation, right? The Creoles weren't just shaping their own community, they were shaping Sierra Leone itself. What kind of lasting impact did they have on the broader society?
Their influence was profound. For one, they were instrumental in the development of Sierra Leone's education system. Many of those early settlers, especially the Nova Scotians, placed a high value on education. They established schools, churches, literary societies. They laid the groundwork for a more literate and socially mobile society.
That's amazing. So they were pioneers, not just in a geographical sense, but in an educational sense as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
And their influence wasn't confined to the classroom. They were key players in the economic and political spheres as well. Many Creoles became successful traders, entrepreneurs, skilled professionals. They held positions of influence within the colonial administration, advocating for the rights of their people.
They weren't just adapting to their new home. They were actively shaping it, leaving their mark on its future. It really challenges the traditional narrative of colonization, doesn't it?
It does. The Krios demonstrate that even within the constraints of colonialism, there's room for agency for shaping one's own destiny. Their story is one of resilience, adaptation, and the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and create something truly extraordinary.
It's a powerful story. It really makes you think about the complexities of history and how these different groups of people came together to create something totally new. As we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out to you most about the Krios? What's really stayed with you?
You know, it's their unwavering spirit. Each wave of settlers, from the Black Poor to the liberated Africans, they faced incredible hardships, trauma even. Yet they found the strength to adapt, to rebuild, to create this vibrant new culture.
Yeah.
It really speaks volumes about the human spirit, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what I find fascinating is how this story, it really challenges our understanding of identity.
Yeah,
We often think of it as fixed, something we're born with.
right.
But the Krios, they show us that identity is fluid. It's evolving.
Yeah,
It's shaped by our experiences, our interactions with each other, the communities we build.
that's a great point. The Krios are a testament to the fact that diversity isn't just a buzzword.
Right.
It's a source of strength.
It is.
It's about embracing the richness and complexity that comes from different cultures, languages, and perspectives, all intertwining.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to a part of history I knew very little about.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's left me wanting to learn more.
Well, you're in luck. There's a wealth of information out there waiting to be explored.
I know.
Academic texts, novels, personal accounts. The Krios have a vibrant cultural heritage that's ripe for discovery.
And speaking of discovery, if you're as captivated by the Krios as we are, head over to www.thekrios.com or search for thekrios.com on Facebook.
Oh, it's a great resource.
It's an incredible online resource dedicated to preserving and celebrating Creole heritage. You'll find tons of fascinating details about their history, culture, and contributions to Sierra Leone.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to dive deeper.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.